welcome to Africa and Beyond Television Network. And this evening, let us take a look on what is happening in the nation of Zimbabwe and the SADC region. Team South Africa is actually fighting ZANU PF, and they've told ZANU PF to actually stay clear uh, away from South African politics. And this is interesting, and this is causing a lot of controversy. ZANU PF has been meddling in the regional politics like never before. This has never happened to see a ruling party in another country meddling in regional politics just like that without even feeling ashamed. So it's very important for us to actually take a look onto this report right here. This is Vuyo Zungula, who is an MP, saying ZANU PF's involvement in SA elections must be rejected. The same ZANU PF stole elections with the help of ANC leaders in return for safeguarding their business interests in Zimbabwe. That's why the ANC government will never resolve the ZEP issue, because it benefits ZANU PF to have millions of Zimbabweans in South Africa rather than in Zimbabwe, where they can vote it out. So it's very important for us to note that this is what is happening at this moment in time, and there is a lot involved in this whole thing, and we need to take a look onto it. Let us take a look onto this video, which has been attached right here, and understand the context.
Raised a question on this, including Mbeki. Mbeki accepted it. Why did the ANC fight the MDC for the full 17 years before the change? Why did the ANC fight the MDC? Have you ever thought about that?
You were in the trenches.
You know why?
Give us
you know why? When we nearly beat ZANU in 2000 and in 1980, sorry, 2000, when we nearly beat them. Remember, they only won the election that year by three seats. And I believe that was crooked, just like the referendum was crooked. They still lost the referendum. Mbeki ordered a review of the implications of an MDC government in Zimbabwe on South Africa. And that review, led by the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs in South Africa, came to the conclusion that if the MDC came to power in Zimbabwe, it would mean the ANC-COSATU alliance would break down, and COSATU would become an independent entity and would actually fight the ANC in the next election. And you remember at that time Lulu was the president in Brazil. And Lulu's background was a trade unionist. And his party was a leftist trade union structure. And he was talking to this COSATU and trying to persuade COSATU to go independent. And in the tripartite alliance, which is the ANC in South Africa, COSATU is the muscle. 4.8 million members. ANC only had 187,000. It was COSATU with the money. If COSATU had left the ANC and formed an independent party, the ANC would have been defeated. So what Mbeki said was, ZANU must remain in power in Zimbabwe, because if the MDC comes to power, the ANC itself will lose power in South Africa. Was he wrong? Let me tell you, the one thing about Mbeki, he's got some brains. I think he was one of the more effective South African presidents. And he was right. We were a threat to the ANC. So what did they do? They fought us. During their diplomatic missions in the United Nations, the European Union, they fought us around the world. Fought us specifically, okay? And when it came to them manipulating the elections here, 2002, we won 2000. I remember that 2005 election like it was yesterday. Remember our people queuing, 3 kilometers long, queuing all night, and then eventually they just closed the ballot boxes, and we won that election. Morgan was elected president with more than a surplus of 400,000 votes against Mugabe. What did the South African government do? They simply said, ZANU PF has won. And we couldn't fight that. We underestimated the influence of South Africa in the struggle that we were engaged in.
But Morgan didn't underestimate it, because I remember a clip.
He did.
I remember a clip where he said that if South Africa speaks today,
So this is what is happening. This is about South Africa, how they've been meddling in Zimbabwean politics in the past, and how this big brotherhood also is been adopted by ZANU PF now. So ZANU PF has been protected by South Africa in the past, and right now they are returning the favor because the ANC is being protected by another sister liberation party. The same way they did it in 2008 is the same way they did it in 2023. This is the Brothers Club, where South Africa makes a decision to silence everybody within the SADC region. And the same is happening right now. But what is at stake to note is that South Africans are actually asking ZANU PF to move away from the South African politics, to leave the South African politics to South Africans, not to meddle into South African politics. And they are okay. That is what needs to be done. ZANU PF cannot be seen involved in South African politics because they've never delivered free, fair, credible elections in their own country. How can they lead or help or assist another party which is living in a democracy? How does that work? So this is very, very important to note that this meddling is actually destroying the social fabric or the political fabric within the SADC region. It has affected Africa, it has affected SADC, it has affected everybody. But particularly, Zimbabweans have become a burden in South Africa, they've become a burden in other countries, especially in the SADC, in the UK, in the USA, they've become a burden. Not that it's bad for Zimbabweans to migrate to work, but when they migrate, when everybody is willing to migrate to other countries for work, that becomes a problem. It becomes a problem. And when ZANU PF starts to meddle in South African politics, it also becomes a problem because we've seen the same modus operandi being deployed in Zimbabwe. We've seen it now being deployed in South Africa against Jacob Zuma and other people. We have seen it being deployed against the opponents. We have seen these people actually declaring that only ruling parties should continue to be in power. That is problematic. That is creating chaos and problem. But the major question is, if the South African economy collapses the same way the Zimbabwean economy is collapsed, what will be the fate of these two parties, ANC and ZANU PF? Because at the end of the day, you are going to see Zimbabweans who have been suffering in South Africa suffering the same way they've been suffering in Zimbabwe. You see those Zimbabweans suffering. And what will they do? They will say, okay, it's better to go home. When they say it's better to go home, what will be the fate of the regime across the Limpopo? They don't even think about the implications of their actions. That is the reason why they don't care about free, fair, credible elections. And I agree with my brother Vuya right here. These people need to actually make sure that they are not involved in other countries' politics, and that they need to stay in their own country, in Zimbabwe, face their own consequences there, and leave South Africans do their own politics. So Comrade Chow says ZANU PF and ANC are comrade in arms. Together they fought against the evil apartheid government. So if you take a look on the real truth, Zimbabwe, the ZANU PF didn't help the ANC during the apartheid. That is a false narrative being spearheaded by ZANU PF people. That is a false narrative. So if you research very well, you understand that they never helped the ANC to fight the apartheid. But they'll tell you that we were on the ground. They'll tell you that we helped them. That is not true. So you see that it's a matter of common interest. It's a matter of people in South Africa who are involved in mining activities right here in Zimbabwe, and they help each other to protect each other because they need to continue to loot. But economies are being destroyed. South Africa has never lacked electricity in the past, and they've faced load shedding for a very long time now because of bad leadership, bad governance. So ZANU PF has become a menace, and honestly, it's a mess everywhere. So thank you very much for the support. Please keep on subscribing, commenting, and sharing.